Welcome to the We Are Game YouTube channel. Today we have a special guest joining us to officially kick off our We Are Game channel. My name is David Horton, and I have our special guest today with us, Mr. Alan Thigpen, the owner, CEO, and the brains behind We Are Game.
Very nice to be with you today, David, and I look forward to this interview.
Thank you. It's very nice to have you here as well. I can't think of a better way to kick off our channel by having you here. So I don't want to waste too much time, so let's go ahead and get started. What do our viewers need to know about you?
Well, as you mentioned, David, my name is Alan Thigpen. I am the National Director and co-founder with my wife, Joyce Thigpen, of We Are Game. I was born in Boston, Massachusetts. I attended high school in Plainfield, New Jersey, where I was actually the first African-American Student Council president. I graduated from Pennsylvania Military College, which is now Widener University in Chester, Pennsylvania. And I was commissioned upon graduation as a second lieutenant in the United States Army. And I was actually one of only 2 African Americans to graduate in the class of 1969. I served 2 years in the Army, moved back to New Jersey, and then came to California, which I thought we were going to visit for a little bit. And over 40 years later, I'm still here. So I guess this is home. I have spent 30 plus years in the corporate world, had a fairly successful career. And in 2009, I co-founded We Are Game, getting athletes mentoring in education.
Well, that's wonderful. So now that you mentioned it, tell us a little bit more about We Are Game. What should the viewers know about We Are Game?
We Are Game is a sports mentoring program. We work with athletes at the high school, college, and professional level. But the thing I like to tell everyone, we're really an education organization. We're really about making sure that student athletes get a college education. And if none of our athletes ever got to be professional athletes, but they all got educations, we would be very pleased with that. So we provide mentoring. We also provide academic counseling. My wife, Joyce, as I mentioned, she has a master's degree in counseling at college administration, and she has served at the community college and 4-year college level. So she works with all of our student athletes to make sure they're on track toward graduation. And we offer these services for free. There is no charge for what we do. We want to make sure that these young people have an opportunity to get an education. We have been blessed with athletes who play at the Division I level. We have an athlete who's professional football at this point. And we also have a young man who was drafted by the LA Dodgers out of high school, but chose to go to college. We really, our requirements for the student athletes are very minimal. 1, you have to have a desire to be successful. 2, you have to agree to communicate with your mentor on a weekly basis, and that's via whatever medium is best for you, be it social media, email, cell phone, whatever. And no drug or alcohol use or abuse. And if you meet that criteria, you're welcome to be part of We Are Game.
I love it. Thank you. And just so you let our viewers know, how do you find these young kids? How do you find these young men and women to participate?
Well, when we first started, we used to recruit young people. I spent a lot of time out meeting young people. But what's happened since then, we get referrals. Almost all the young people who come into our program are on referrals from current athletes, from parents. And it's, the great part is it's a really deep pool, and there's no shortage of young people. So yeah, we've been able to have that way. But we still on occasion will see someone that we think could use our help, and we will actively recruit them. But 99.9% of the young people coming in our programs are on referral.
Okay. Now you told us a little bit about your background. You talked a little bit about We Are Game. How did this all get started? Where did it come from?
Well, it's an interesting story. Years ago in 2008, actually, I was reading the Bakersfield Californian, and in the newspaper was an article about a young man. He had been a former gangbanger, a former drug dealer, He had 3 other brothers. His mom and dad were both former drug users. He had a girlfriend with a 2-year-old baby. And yet he got out of the gangs and he started playing football. He had a good junior year, and ultimately he had a prolific senior year in football. And yet, they talked about how his grades were better, which is a code for they weren't good to start with. And I realized at that point that without help, this young man really didn't have a future. And I mean, God spoke to me in my heart and said, literally, get off the couch and go to work. And that was in November. And in January of 2009, we started We Are Game.
What was your first action that you took when you got started in 2009?
Well, interesting enough, the vision that I had really laid out the program. Try to identify young people at the 8th or 9th grade, provide them mentoring and the academic support. And then if they go to college, when they go to college, provide a mentoring at that level, because a lot of these young folks, they go home, they get hurt, they get homesick, they don't play when they go a few thousand miles away from home. So to find them a mentor at that level, someone who doesn't have coach in front of their name, someone to help them get through that first year or two, which we find is critical. And then if they made it to the professional level, to help them at that level, because both the NBA and NFL both quote the same stat, and that is 80% of their players file bankruptcy within 5 years after leaving the league. So even after they, quote, make it, they don't make it. So, that was the vision. And we reached out to a couple friends up in Bakersfield, which is where even though I live in the LA area, our initial athletes all came from Bakersfield. They helped, one of them worked for the school district. Another had been worked with youth, at-risk youth. They began to introduce us to people. And matter of fact, the young man that the article was about, he was the first person we brought into our program.
Now, you didn't mention it earlier when you talked about We Are Game, but you have a summer institute every year. Can you talk to me a little bit about what that entails and what the student athletes experience when they get to California during the summer?
Absolutely. This has really become kind of like the crown jewel of We Are Game. We call it the We Are Game Student Athlete Success Conference. We've done it 8 years in a row. Unfortunately, with the pandemic this year, we weren't able to do it this year, but we'll be doing it next year. We bring student athletes up to a camp up in Lake Hughes, California. They come up on a Friday evening. They stay in hotel-style rooms, 4 to a room. Meals are served in Rosiger Commons, which is a $10 million dining facility. So Friday evening, we have a bite to eat. We watch a sports-related movie. We talk about that. And then off to bed, and Saturday morning breakfast. Every year we've had a different keynote speaker. They kind of set the tone for the weekend. And then we get involved, and it's not a sports weekend, it's a life skills weekend. We just had wonderful people who donate their time. We do workshops, social media, proper use of social media, how to conduct yourself in an interview, and how to interact with the media. We do an educational workshop, a financial workshop. We do a nutrition workshop. And we were honored, of course, to have you as one of our keynote speakers, how we originally met. And like everything we do, there's no charge to our student athletes. The cost of it is fairly significant. I always laugh because the first year we had 15 people. And the only reason we had 15 people was because I called the Oaks and said, I'd like to do a camp. And they said, how many people are you going to have? And I said, what's the minimum? And they said 15. So I said, okay, we're going to have 15 people. Last year we had over 50 people. Thanks to friends and associates, we've been able to continue to finance it as it grows, but it's going to continue to grow. And that's an area where we're looking to find sponsorship and people who can support what we think is a wonderful program.
It is a wonderful program, and I thank you again for inviting me to speak a couple years ago. It really was a highlight for me, so thank you again for that invite. How would you describe the ultimate vision for We Are Game?
What I see in the future for We Are Game is tremendous growth in the future. Specifically, the plan is to establish a national headquarters in Southern California and to be able to bring on paid staff, because everyone right now who's involved volunteers their time and effort. And we've got some great supporters and we appreciate that. But for continued growth and development, we need a paid staff. And then we want to see slow and steady growth throughout the U.S., most likely regional We Are Game offices with, facilities where we can actually have meetings with our student athletes, and also, again, a national paid staff. And we'd also like to do the conference that we just talked about, the Student Athlete Success Conference. We'd like to do that on a regional basis so that young people from all over the country can take advantage of this event. And we want to continue to develop our organization and grow it. We work currently with over 500 student athletes, and thanks to God, we've been able to do this with only his support, his direction and guidance. But he's always never let us down. He's always come through. And the other thing is, I'm adamant about, We Are Game has no debt, and we will not go in debt. Everything we do, we pay for, and we actually have a couple of dollars in the bank as well. So that's critical that we do that.
Now, you mentioned earlier that you did not have the institute that come together this summer. What would you like to tell your student athletes, other student athletes, young athletes out there watching this right now? What message would you like to send them today?
I know for everyone, this has been a very difficult time, and especially for younger people. I talked with one of our student athletes who was running track and was one of the top in the community college level, was one of the top hurdlers. All of a sudden, the season was ended, and she talked about her frustration, not being able to be with her teammates. So we had a long talk, and the whole thing is you have to realize you can sit back and say, woe is me, poor me, and feel sorry for yourself, or you can take advantage of this opportunity to make yourself better in many different areas. And you and I talked a little bit about this before the interview started. This, for me, has been an amazing time, but I, just like everyone else, had to motivate myself to push forward. And then once you do, there are projects, there are business opportunities, there are all kinds of things out there. So regardless of how dark this might look or how tough it might be, use this time to get better at your skills, to get better in the classroom. And when things get back to the new normal, be ready to move forward. Because if you're not moving forward, you are moving backwards. You cannot just stay status quo. It doesn't work.
So, Alan, thank you. And before we close, do you have any final thoughts for our viewers or anything else you'd like to share about We Are Game that we have not discussed yet?
Yes, I do. There, and actually two main points that I'd like to make. Number one is a good friend of ours a few years ago wrote an article about us, about We Are Game. And the crux of the article was, we're the best organization you've never heard of. And we still are that. And that came from our parents, because our parents would say, wow, this is a great organization. Why haven't I ever heard of it? It's like, because we're taking care of business. We're helping our student athletes become successful. And the other thing is, and I say to people all the time, David, we're a free resource. Why wouldn't you use us? And it amazes me how many young people, how their parents choose not to give us an opportunity to help them. And, I spoke to some people back in January, and I told them the success that we've had over the 12 years has been amazing. But what haunts me are all the young people and their parents who said, we don't need your help.
Alan, I do appreciate you joining us today to kick off our YouTube channel. This is a great opportunity for us to spread the word and to let people know about We Are Game. And so if you're listening out there, viewers, please make sure you subscribe to our channel so you can keep up to date on everything that We Are Game is doing. And then again, thank you very much, Alan, for joining us, and we hope to see everyone next time. Thank you for joining us.